It's torture.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of let it happen.
I did not let this happen.
Physically, it didn't stop her.
Okay, here we go. We are going to multiply and divide fractions today. Multiplying and dividing fractions is fairly straightforward. Or straight across.
Ha
Ha.
ha.
We've just been arguing a little bit, that's all.
Mason just left to go bird hunting.
Okay.
Just didn't want to do that, but we got it.
Okay. So we are multiplying and dividing fractions. When we talk about multiplying and dividing fractions, we know, because you've done this before for many years, when we multiply fractions, we just multiply straight across the numerators, straight across the denominators. Yeah, really. So, on the back, we start with our examples. 2/7 times 3/5 equals what?
6/35.
6/35. Can that reduce down?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No,
It cannot. That is in lowest terms. There will be half a point taken off for any answers that are not in lowest terms. Example 2, 1/11 times 1/3 gives us 1/33. Can that reduce down? 2/3 times 4/7. 8/21. Can that reduce down? No, it cannot. Example 4, we have 3/4 times 8/11. Before we work this one out, we're going to talk a little bit about when we multiply fractions, how we can cross-cancel. Cross-canceling saves us a step when it comes to reducing at the end. If we look at these numbers and we see numbers that are diagonal from each other that can reduce, we can reduce them at this point instead of waiting till after we multiply. Okay? So what numbers do you see here that would have a common factor, Valeria? 4 and 8. We can reduce the 4 to a, and the 8 to a, because 4 goes into 8 twice. Then I can multiply with those new numbers. Austin, pay attention to me and don't be working on your Chromebook. When we cross cancel, it can help us because if we were to multiply this across, it would be 24 44ths, and then we would have to reduce from there. But when we cross cancel, we can just automatically know that it is 6/11. Next, I have 2/7 times 3/8 times a negative 14/15. I have 3 factors in this one. Blake, focus on math, not your fingernails. Please and thank you.
I'm doing it.
You're not doing it. Okay. So when we have 3 of these factors that we're multiplying together, we can still look at them and cross cancel. It just takes a little more breaking down, maybe is what you want to say. Breaking down. So I can say that they break them into their individual factors, like when we prime factorized stuff. And then we can cross out anything that is similar.
That's on.
I noticed. So when we break down 2 and 7, those are already prime numbers. They just carry those over. They took their negative sign and stuck it in the front. because we know that we're going to end up with a negative number. So we can just move that around wherever it's easier for us to remember. 3 stayed the same in our line of factors. 8 became 2 times 2 times 2. 14 is 2 times 7, and 15 is this 3 times 5. When we break it down into our factors, then we can cancel out anything they have in common.
Okay, so the 8 they wrote 2, 2,
Yes,
2.
2,
Not,
2, 2.
okay, not 2 times 4. Okay.
Nope, 2, 2, 2. Then we can go through, mark off anything they have in common. When we get done, you notice we've marked off everything in the top except that negative sign. So what number are we going to put to replace that? A 1. We're just going to have a 1. And in the bottom, we've marked off everything except a 2 and a 5. So we know our answer is that negative 1/10. Okay?
Or can you solve like the first two numbers, and then after you solve it, can you solve the negative number?
We could multiply 2 times 3 and 7 times 8, and then take that answer times this. You're going to get a lot bigger number because you won't have crossed out all those other numbers in between.
But if you did it that way, could you, so like the 2 and the 8, could you cross out the 1 and make that a 4?
Yes.
And then multiply, and then, is that what you were saying, Valerie? And then go,
Yes.
okay.
And if you wanted, you could be like, well, this 7 is going to cancel out with that 14 and become a 1 and a 2.
Okay, but it always has to be across from each other.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do it that way if you don't
That
want to
seems
break
a
them
little
down.
confusing.
When you get with more than 2 factors, yeah. Okay, moving on. Next, we add in some variables. They say, once again, we're going to break this down into our factors. So they list out their a cubed to a times a times b, and our b squared and our a squared. Okay, and then we multiply or cancel out everything that is similar and end up with a over b. Okay, another way to do this is to look at our exponents. When I have an a to the third on the top and an a to the second on the bottom, I know those are going to cancel out and just become 1a on the top. That's an a, not a 9. And I have a b squared and a b here, so one of those are going to cancel out, so that's going to be that b. Okay? If it makes it easier to multiply write them like this, and then when we divide, we subtract those exponents. That's all we're going to do is subtract those exponents. So 3 minus 2 leaves me 1a on the top, and b, this is a 1 that we're canceling out here with this 2. That just leaves me that b on the bottom. Okay? Mikey, keep your eyes open. So when we talk about multiplying fractions and taking these fractions to an exponent, this has to be written with these parentheses around it because 3 over 4 to the third power without parentheses means something totally different. Okay? This means we are only taking this 3 to the third power. This does not mean that the 4 gets taken to the third power. When they are in parentheses like this,
It's the whole thing.
it's the whole thing. So we do 3/4 times 3/4 times 3/4. Yeah. Sorry, I did not keep up with my last problem on my answer key, so I have to fill that in real quick. So 3/4 times 3/4 times 3/4, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 4 times 4 times 4 is, can 27/64 reduce?
Yes. No, wait.
A good way to be able to determine this is to look and see if there was anything we could cross cancel back here when we were multiplying. There is nothing that we could have cross canceled, so we know 27/64 is in that lowest terms. Next, I have a negative 4/5 squared.
So that would mean that both are negative.
Yes. Yes. Good point to bring up, because the negative sign is inside the parentheses. Both of these are negative. If it is outside the parentheses, then they are not. So this answer is
Negative 16.
so close. What's a negative times a negative?
Oh, it's a positive.
16
It's
over
a
25.
positive. It's a 16/25, and it is a positive. So we're going to start talking about being able to divide fractions. In order to be able to divide fractions, you need to know about a reciprocal. This is on the front of your page. What?
I hate that.
A reciprocal. The fancy word for flipping a fraction. Okay? A reciprocal just means it's something that you can multiply a number by to equal 1. It's going to cancel each other out. Okay? So when we flip our fractions,
There we go.
we just flip them upside down. That is a reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction is just it flipped upside down or interchanging its numerator and denominator. Sounds so much fancier, right? Flip the fraction.
Too many big words.
So it says find the reciprocal of each number. What's the reciprocal of 4/9? 9/4. So simple. What's the reciprocal of 13/9? 9/13. What's the reciprocal of 9/1? 1/9. If I told you that this is a whole number that sometimes doesn't have that 1 hanging out underneath it. If I just said, what is the reciprocal of 9? You have to be able to remember there is an invisible 1 hanging out below that 9 that nobody takes the time to write. So our reciprocal of the whole number 9 is 1/9. When we divide fractions, we multiply the first fraction times the reciprocal of the second fraction. Okay? So if it says divide, we flip the second fraction and multiply. Never, ever, ever flip the first fraction. Only flip the second fraction. So our first example is 4/5 divided by 1/8. If I'm going to divide that, I need to do what? Flip
With 8 to 8/1.
to 8/1. I can look and see if there is anything I can cross cancel at this point. Is there anything I can cross cancel? Nope. So I multiply that out and I end up with 32/5.
Do we have to make it into an improper fraction? fraction or no?
Don't think that the book is going to make you, however, let me look and see. I guess we don't today or tomorrow. We can just leave them. Can just leave them as improper fractions today and tomorrow. The next one is 14 over 17 divided by a negative 2/5. Flip the 2/5. Make sure you don't lose that negative. Keep that negative there. Is there anything I can cross cancel in this one to make my multiplication easier? The 14 and the 2. So they break theirs down. They wrote it in their prime factorization. We're going to cancel out our 2's. 7 times 5 is 17 times 1 is my answer positive or negative? Negative. So a negative 35/17 or a negative 2 1/17.
Okay, so if we don't cross multiply,
Cross cancel?
I mean, yeah, do we have to simplify it?
Yes. You do. You need to get it down to this lowest term if you don't cross cancel. But unless it tells you online today to make it a mixed number, I would not. So then we throw in some letters, some algebra into this. Yay. I have 3y over 4 divided by 5y to the 3rd power. So when I look at this, Mikey, close your Chromebook and pay attention. You do not need your Chromebook home. Open. I didn't mean to say home. You do not need your Chromebook open right now. Thank you. Austin, you too. Thank you. So, when I look at this, what is underneath this 5y to the 3rd that we didn't write? A 1. If I am dividing, I need to put a 1 under there and flip it over. When I look at that, I can break that down into my prime factorization, and then I can cross some things out. What do I have? What do they have in common that I can cross out? A y. They each have a y. I can cross out that y. So if I cross out one of those y's, how many y's does that leave me with? 2 on the bottom. So my bottom should read 20y squared, right? Because I still have to multiply my 4 times my 5. What is my top going to be? Do what? 3. Just a 3. 3 times 1 is 3. So even though there's letters in there, it's still just as simple as cross-canceling, multiplying straight across. The last section of this lesson tells us we are going to evaluate if we are given some numbers. So if x is 7/8 and y is a negative 1/3, what is x times y? We're going to multiply these straight across. Is there anything we can cross cancel? No. So my answer is -7/24. Make sure you include that negative. Part B says we're going to divide x by y. Once again, I substitute in those fractions that it gives me. What do I have to do if I'm dividing? Flip the second one. Is there anything I can cross cancel here? So I multiply straight across, and what's my answer? -21/8. I could change that into a mixed number, but I'm not going to. Okay, that is it for today. Your assignment is online, 4.3. It probably says it's late because I had it set for yesterday. So 4.3 online. Tomorrow we'll do 4.3 book assignment. That means if you don't get it done, you will have homework over Thanksgiving break.
I know that.
All right.